Well, I'm going to open with a poem from my book, The Way of the Wise Woman. It's poem number 26, and all of them are 10 lines and they're rhyme. This is number 26. The wise woman minds her tongue. She knows that on careless words our fate is hung. And once spoken, the harm can't be undone, but falls on barren ground like toxic dung from which no fair fruit has ever sprung. She quietly waits for a word fitly spoken, and until that arises, her silence is unbroken. She grows in strength because she is reticent, and others listen to one who is hesitant to speak, like a clear bell, seldom rung. And I thought it would be good to open with that, because we are, for of necessity in terms of an interview process, having to speak a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But one wants to try to find a way to let the silence speak.
Right.
So not always just from the mind. And I'm just speaking for myself now. You'll have your own way. But my way is to not allow the mind to be so dominant or interfere. But if you have a question that you ask for me to be still for a moment and let something arise, which is not just from the mind, but from a reticence to speak. And that reticence to speak, to me, is so beautiful. So that I listen more, I speak less, and I try to be in the world, in a noisy world, in a way which is more quiet. So that's a good way to begin this interview with that aim I have for myself.
Yes. And I hope and pray every day that people will obtain better listening skills, the best listening skills possible, because that is very clearly a problem in the current
we don't
time.
One, do we? I am so full of my own opinion and believes that I am right. And my experience is that the moment I think I'm right, I'm no longer in relationship. So I can either be right or I can be in relationship. And the work that I engage in, this spiritual practice, is all about relationship.
Yes. I want to touch on some themes from the Decan that you have in your natal chart. You have your moon and your sun and Mercury all in Aries, and your rising sign is also in Aries, so you are a triple Aries, as they say. And in the first decan, you have your rising, your ascendant sign, and your moon in Aries. And I just want to go over some of those thematics, especially around the moon. So in your life, you have perhaps cultivated a sort of emotional self-reliance. Would you say that resonates?
Well, I'm going to begin to answer that by, first of all, talking about planetary influences, which is what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
The human biological instrument is a mammal. It's an earth body. So it is subject to all of the planetary influences which influence the earth. And on and that level of mammal life is a mechanical life. It's an unconscious life. It's a life lived, driven by forces over which I am unaware and have no control. And I believe in that mechanical world that I am in charge, I'm making decisions, and that I'm the one deciding. When the fact is, in that mechanical world, the world of the mammal, the earth person, we are simply driven by forces beyond our knowing and beyond our control. And they decide for me. They speak for me. They act in my name, and I believe it is me doing. All right, that's one aspect. That's the aspect of planetary influences, which were active when this body was conceived, gestated, and birthed. Those planetary influences were acting on this mammal body. There is another world. We'll call it the world of the conscious being, the objective world. It's a world one hopes to arrive at eventually through practical spiritual work on oneself. In which case, the laws which govern the mammal world, the work teaches us there are 48 sets of laws which govern that world, and those laws are binding. If one can become more consciously aware, more awake, the work teaches that I can escape half of those laws, and am now under the influence of 24 laws instead of 48. So the planetary influences can become manageable, consciously, objectively, so that I am aware of those influences. They always lies in me as mechanical, as habits, unconscious, habitual, mammal habits, repeating over and over again. And I can leave a slight distance from them. I can become more aware and objective to them. All right, now that's a long-winded way of addressing your question, which was, have I achieved an emotional independence? Have I got the question right?
Yes. There is, of course, some level of subconscious behavior. I do find a lot of the qualities in the Decans to aid you in becoming self-aware and conscious. They are innately there, and they can be tools to give you ways to have more clarity and understanding in your life, essentially.
Okay. I believe that those qualities you've identified, which were innate and inherent in this body, and maybe in the being, which I am as well, what they created in me was a magnetic influence. Here's what I mean. They created in me the possibility of being magnetized, or drawn, or attracted at some point in my life to a spiritual path. So that the ordinary world and ordinary mammal world, the world of humanity, was not satisfying me and did not answer the needs which I felt inside. And those inherent qualities created in me at a certain point in my life a need to search for other which were not being given by ordinary life. Which led me to search for masters, spiritual masters. And the good master Jesus provided with a law regarding that, and that is, seek and ye shall find. It was one of Jesus' laws he brought. Jesus was a lawgiver, and as was Buddha and Krishna and others. But that law awakened in me at the time of my divorce and separation from my children. It became one of the most overriding, demanding, guiding principles I needed to find a spiritual path, and I needed to find a spiritual master, and to find, if it was possible, to live another kind of life in which my own mechanical, animal, mammal tendencies did not destroy my relationships, period.
Mm. Yeah, so in the beginning of your life, would you... I want to just run through this list because we're still on it, but I was gonna... I definitely want to talk about the fact that you have Mercury, cazimi, the sun, and it shines down on your capabilities to provide insight and language through words, and we'll get to that point. But just really quick, in an early life, there was sort of potentially a struggle in finding those creative spaces and relationships that you longed for, and you kind of maybe even pushed yourself to exhaustion, and or perhaps have some sort of an emotional need for like this active lifestyle. And you also have this emotional capability to transmute stagnancy, I suppose, through this moon in Aries in the first decan. So I'm curious about some of that personal experience from your journey.
While I'm not familiar with the language of astrology necessarily, I have an inherent understanding of what you mean in using that language. So I'm going to start at the beginning, and we'll see if we can work something out based on what you just presented. My birth mother was a 17-year-old girl, unmarried, from a prominent family, and that's all I know about them. And when she became pregnant, of course, the whole family was horrified and shamed, including my birth mother, and they sent her away to a home for unwed mothers in Chicago, Illinois. And there she was with other young girls who were pregnant, and of course they were bathed in all kinds of negative emotions. The interesting thing was that she gave birth to me, and for the first month of my life, she nursed me before she gave me up for adoption, which meant that there was a tremendous bond between me and my birth mother, and her facial features imprinted on me.
Right.
And have influenced the kinds of women I was attracted to in the phase of my life, which was half my life, in which I was mechanical and unconscious and a driven mammal. That facial imprint decided what kind of women I was attracted to instantly, mother figure. So at 1 month, she gave me up for adoption. I was placed in a foster home, and the social workers' records, which my younger daughter obtained at some point and I was able to read, indicated that I spent a month in that foster home. The indications were that I was neglected badly. And so they took me out of that foster home and placed me in a second foster home. And in that second foster home, I was placed with a family who had 2 children of their own. And according to the social workers' records, they loved me. There was a great bond in that whole family with this baby. And they wanted to adopt me, but weren't allowed to, but because the law was, according to the adoption agency that I was placed in, you couldn't adopt me if you had children of your own and biological children of your own. You had to family. Okay, so at age 6 months, taken from my birth mother, taken from the first place I was placed, taken second place I was placed, and put in the hands of a couple who it turned out became hopeless alcoholics and died of alcoholism. That was the situation that this body found itself in, and so fear of rejection, fear of loss permeated this body and this psychology and this false personality, which we'll call the self, permeated it and drove all of my relationships until that time when I began to work on myself and observe myself and try to remember myself and awaken to something in me which was real. I'll call it the being, which is who I am, and not so deeply identified and attached to the persona, the egoic structure created by this little child in order to defend itself against the insanity it found itself in this world. So that led me to become a kind of loner.
Yeah.
Very hesitant to make friends.
Yeah.
Very hesitant to give my heart in and to commit to relationship. And that was the story of my life up to the point of my divorce from my first wife. Failure to connect.
Yeah, so just to interject really quick, that decan of the moon in Aries, it's not comfortable there really too much. And the moon represents mother. And that being in your first house is all about your identity. And the moon being in the first decan of Aries, it's just such a strong, wild example because severance from quote unquote the symbolic mother, and you're getting a literal translation of that, and the outcome of that being the difficulty in creating supportive relationships. It's just wild how strong, powerful of an example that is. And then to spawn from that is the root of personal power and having to find your own power and the breaking through obstacles and finding your own fire and, creating your own paradigm shift, which you now share with others. It's very remarkable.
It's a miracle I wasn't a serial killer.
Yes, well, I have a similar, not quite as extreme background to you. And that is definitely a thing, being, adopted, and similarly, my mom, was 17 and put into a home and all of that, my biological mother, and there was a lot of shame, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, those breaking, being taken and just moved around, yeah, it is a miracle. And there are a lot of family separations that are early childhood trauma and do result in the creation of serial killers. So,
or non-functional adults.
Correct.
Adults who find it impossible to sustain loving relationships.
Right.
I want to say something more about my adopted parents. They were hopeless alcoholics. My mother was a weak, passive victim alcoholic. My father was a cruel, violent, brutal alcoholic. And I bow down to my parents. I feel that I owe them a tremendous debt. because they have given me a lifetime of work. They've given me incentive. They've given me a deep-seated drive to never give up, to never quit. And they have instilled in me, finally, a deep-seated ability to forgive and to sympathize, to feel compassion. And they are a reminder to me. They have provided me with egoic food, which the being requires that to feed on that food the way the chick in an egg requires the yolk to feed on until it grows strong enough to break free from the shell.
Mm-hmm.
What they gave me as terms of an ego structure was so strong, so powerful, that it has provided me with an endless source of being food once I learned how to consume it and not be consumed by it.
Yeah.
I can read a poem from The Way of the Wise Woman that's in relation to this, if you wish.
Yeah, let's go for it, please.
By the way, the book I'm reading from is called The Way of the Wise Woman.
Mm-hmm.
It's published by Home Press, HOHMpress.com, and is available. You can buy it on Amazon or from Home Press. Anyway, this is number 33. Again, 10 lines, rhymed. For the wise woman, everything is food to feed her soul, from the steady streams of thought to the rush of emotion. The soul feeds on energy transformation, negative energy into love. Not fooled by the dreams desire spins, the wise woman stays steady in her attitude and is not ruled by every changing mood. To grow and mature, the soul must be fed well, just as the chick eats the yolk to escape its shell. The soul consumes negativity to escape from hell. That's what my parents gave me, so I don't want to leave anyone the impression that I regret my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
I respect my childhood, and I respect my mother and father for the sacrifice of their lives in order to give me a tremendous ego structure which I can use to grow and evolve as a soul.
Lovely. And that you did.
That I did. I thank God I found the work.
Yeah. And it's funny now because I want to walk over towards the second decan of Aries. And one of the thematics behind that is waiting for ripening and a fruitful awaiting. And it's just kind of like you were this little bitter seed that has evolved into this lovely, ripe, juicy fruit with beautiful words to give to the world, to the universe.
I am a work in progress, and I am having entered into that process of evolution of the soul.
Mm-hmm.
What I understand about that evolution is it never ends. Once one has found one's way onto the path of the soul's evolution, there is no top end. It never ends.
Mm-hmm.
Because my impression of what we call God, and maybe we can call that conscious awareness or consciousness, whatever you want to call this thing we call God, that it is in a process of unending evolution. That is, it is constantly in evolution, moment to moment. And we are of that, from that source, we are of that process. We are part of that process. And when I awaken from the mechanical mammal world into that objective world and place myself at its beck and call, at its mercy, then that evolution never ends. It's just ongoing. And so everything becomes my teacher. Life becomes my food source. And there is no thing which cannot be consumed and digested and aid the soul in its evolution. Mm-hmm. But what you said about the decant is so beautiful because it is a slow process, this ripening, and it requires a patience well beyond what we're capable of by ourselves. It is, and that process of ripening, that evolutionary process, was triggered by the divorce from my wife and the separation from my daughters. And that broke that bitter seed open, because I will say to you that divorce broke me. Mm-hmm. That seed broke open, and I was broken by that separation from my daughters, whom I adore. And that broken open seed then began to hunt for fertile soil, to continue the metaphor, Kiki.
Yeah.
How to place myself in fertile soil so that seed may begin to bloom, put up a seedling, put up a shoot, take root, and to find a soil to take root in. That's the first thing, to be grounded. And thank God that's when I turned to the earth.
Yeah. It's really remarkable. And so, this is just, in a way, sort of reiterating everything you've been talking about. I just wanted to touch on or validate that the sun being in the second Aries Decan, your sun placement, one of the noted themes is that it is of great importance that these natives strive to uncover their true nature. Little validation. And that they create their own reality. And that they have a way of imposing it on the world around them. And then we have Mercury. So your sun is your identity, a huge part of your identity and how you feel about yourself. And then your Mercury being cazimi, right in the sun, in alignment in the same degree with the sun, it provides this gift of idiosyncratic voice, a characteristic mode of thought and communication, this distinction and ability to get others to wrap their heads around what your personal experience is and resonate with it. You're sending out resonance through words, and it shows. And you've gotten some awards, right?
Lots of awards, but those aren't so important.
No.
I want to pick apart something you just said, because I think it's very important. That is the creation of one's own reality. Mm-hmm. Am I repeating that correctly? Isn't that what you said?
Yes.
All right, and getting others to enter into agreement with that reality. All right, in the mammal world, in the world, in the unconscious sleeping world, everybody is creating their own reality.
Right.
Period. And everybody is working as hard as they can to get others to agree with their reality. And the result is war all the time. Mm-hmm. Constant conflict, failed relationship.
Yeah.
All right. In the world of the work in which one seeks to awaken and the soul seeks to enter into its evolutionary process, the work is to not abandon this separate reality that I have created out of the ego structure, but to begin to observe it dispassionately, impersonally. Yeah. Right. Begin to see that I am creating a world which is not in resonance with life as it is, and it's creating all kinds of problems and difficulties and serious emotional harm. And to begin to watch that self-created ego structure world more objectively, impersonally, not taking it personally,
Right.
but just watching it and beginning to absorb it without identifying with it. And in that process, slowly, one begins to surrender to the will of God, whatever that God is and however you define that whatever that source of that creative source is, surrendering to that means that my reality becomes subsumed by the reality of love. And the reality of love is a reality that I don't create. I simply bow down to it. I place myself in a position of receiving it and not trying to control it, knowing that it's not coming from me, that this body and this soul are the love of God manifested as my life, manifested as a being. And so how to receive that love, that descending divine love current, which animates the soul and animates the physical body. There's a constantly descending love current, electrical charge, energetic vibratory charge, which animates this body and this being. And can I find a way to be more receptive to that, so that I become its channel instead of being the source of reality? I become at the effect of the reality of the love of God.
And, well, I certainly think that love resonance is the best way to have others desire to enter your world, because your world is not about the ego and that point of view in that position. It's resonating the highest, most divine frequency that everyone desires, deeply desires.
And I will say this about that world, Kiki. The world, the love which occupies me is so great that every living thing is included in it. Mm-hmm. And it's so great that no one can ever escape it, even if they want to.
Right.
Because it doesn't belong to me.
Right.
Not me.
Not even Elon Musk can escape it.
Not even Donald Trump.
Not even Trump.
Yeah. Not even, and well, let's go to the wildest extreme. Not even Vladimir Putin.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Even they come for me, being one who is in the work and of the work. They become reminding factors every time I'm faced with them. They bring out the best in me. Isn't that wonderful?
It is a lovely position to be in order to transmute all of the ego bullshit occurring in our hyper-individualistic Western world.
The work is about transforming negativity.
Yes.
Into love.
Yeah.
That's the highest calling of the soul on earth, is the transformation of negative energy into love. My sole aim in life, at this point, I'm 82. My sole aim is loving kindness, Kiki, period. Nothing else is higher or more important than loving kindness. And today, here's the thing. Let me give you two examples from my day. You asked me about my day. We were in a hotel for 2 days, and at one point, I had the opportunity to speak to one of the maids who was cleaning the room and serving people, and her name was Cassandra. And I said to her, this beautiful old black woman, I said, Cassandra, do you know the Greek about Cassandra? No, she said, I don't. So I told her about the myth of Cassandra, and I said, Cassandra had the power to foresee the future. She was a vision seeker, and her urge then was to share what she saw with others, to warn them ahead of time. And her curse was no one would believe or listen to her.
Yes.
And she said to me then, this Cassandra I was speaking to said, and when they saw that she had spoken the truth, they still didn't pay any attention to her, did they? And I said, no, they didn't. She said, it's just like today, isn't it? Isn't that a wonderful, so then flash forward to 2 hours later, my wife went in to pay the bill, and Cassandra was at the front desk helping out. And she said to my wife, and my wife reported this to me, your husband is a good man, she said. And she said, I was married to a good man, and when he died, I didn't get bitter because he was so good, it made me better. And she said, it's good to see there's still some good men in this world. Now, there you have it, right there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's the first thing. The second thing is we went to breakfast at The Root. The Root is a beautiful vegetarian restaurant. No, not vegetarian. It's a natural food restaurant. It's one of our favorites in Little Rock. When we're there, we like to eat there. We love the people. And the woman who took my order was so beautiful in her attitude. And I said, you are so lovely. Your attitude is so beautiful and precious. And it's so important in this time we live in of chaos that people like you with that kind of attitude spread that. And she said, I love you. You're so right. And we held hands with each other. Mm. And see, now that's what we must do. In a world full of hatred and negativity and division, that's the only appropriate response is loving kindness wherever we go.
Mm. I have one question that... Okay, I have two.
Only two? Well, fire away.
How do you think humanity, and this is a speculative, kind of silly question to ask, but since we're on that page...
Ask anything you wish. There's no stupid questions with me, and there's no silly questions with me. Every question is treated with great respect.
Well, how long do you think it will take before there is no such thing as a Cassandra complex? In epigenetics, for instance, our nervous systems are so tied into these modes of survivalism that we cling to our ego.
Yes.
And are increasingly incapable of listening and understanding ourselves. And how long will it take until the tension and conflict, and is it even possible to, people are so addicted through their nervous system to the drama of negativity and grief even. Grief is part of the spiral of joy. The nervous system addiction to violence and war and all of these things, do you think it's even possible to transmute into, people say they want the paradise and the peace, but then they sit on their couch and watch a war movie.
Yeah, silent movies of all kinds.
Yeah.
All right, now you're asking a really interesting question. Have you finished with the question, or is there more to it?
That's about it.
All right, so let's talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
In the mammal world, which is 99.9% of humanity, that is the world of conscious humanity is very, very, very small.
Mm-hmm.
So the world of the mammal world, which is a mechanical world, a habitual repetition world, is very large.
Yeah.
And the addiction of the nervous, I love what you just said. The nervous system of the human species is addicted But you haven't put your finger on the addiction. There's only one thing and you're right, that all mammal life is about survival. And that means that all mammals are driven by survival instinct. And the survival instinct is always and only selfish. Mm-hmm. It can only ever be about me. And the only time it will include you is if you provide something that will aid my survival. So it's always a business transaction. It's always transactional. All right. The thing is, what the mammal species nervous system is addicted to is one thing only. All mammals on the mechanical level are addicted to the same thing. It merely has 10,000 different manifestations. Behind it is the same thing. What do you think it is?
Fear?
Period. End of story.
Yes.
We are all terrified and believe that we have to fight for our lives every moment. You say the wrong word to me, you give me the wrong glance, you rub me the wrong way, you touch me the wrong way, your aura is the opposite of mine, and I am in a war, inside and out. Mm-hmm. And fear is the only option. And fear takes 10,000 different forms.
Yeah, it sure does.
It can be all kinds of different things, but it's always behind it is fear. So in this world, in the earth world, the world in which the soul finds itself embodied, there are only two forces at work, and this has been proven to me time and time again. And I think, actually, if you're familiar with this thing called the Course in Miracles,
A Course in Miracles is where, and you were about to mention A Course in Miracles.
Course in Miracles, and then all of a sudden everything ended. The world stopped.
Yeah.
Okay? So the Course in Miracles teaches, and this is my own experience, so I'm not just quoting from a book or something my direct experience is there's only two forces available to humans on this planet: love and fear. Mm-hmm. Those are the only two forces at work on this planet. And all fear has no definition of its own. Fear is like dark. You can't measure dark. Dark is simply the absence of light. And the moment there's light, darkness disappears. Fear is the absence of love. The greater the fear, the less love. The greater the love, the less fear there is. So this planet is ruled by fear. In the mammal world, survival instinct is all about fear. In the world of conscious beings, which is very small, love is the only law. So your question is, what will it take? How long will it take? It will never happen that humanity awakens. It will only happen that individual human beings can awaken. And how long does that take? As long as it takes. Mm-hmm. Only individuals can awaken. The species will not awaken. The species has a function. The species exists as fodder for the earth, and it exists as fodder for conscious beings. There has to be a food source, and it may sound very cruel that most of humanity serves as fodder for the earth to evolve and grow, or for conscious beings to evolve and grow, but it's the law. Mm-hmm. There has to be a food source, and unconscious humanity and negativity is that food source which the conscious humanity transforms into love.
Interesting.
Very interesting. And I must say right here now, I want to caution you on something. You must not believe what I'm saying. You must not trust me. Do not believe me.
Sure.
Do not trust me, and do not follow me. If I say something which interests you and it creates a vibratory resonance in you, begin right there to study and verify for yourself. Experiment, investigate, find out for yourself, and verify for yourself by your own experience whether it's true or not. Do not trust anyone's word for anything.
Right.
Always verify for yourself by your own experience, not taking anybody's word. The moment I take somebody's word, I'm right back in the old victim position again.
Yeah, this is how cults are formed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Second question.
Will you so kindly close out this interview with one or two more poems? Maybe one that you think has some bearing of fiery, fierce energy, sun energy, yang energy, and then any other one of your choosing that you find will aid our beloved listeners of this interview, to aid them in their own self-exploration and critical thinking skills.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And by the way, for anybody who ever listens to this interview, I want to say about Kiki and I that we are related by family.
Mm-hmm.
Kiki's mama is my first cousin, Betsy Irwin, and I've known Kiki since she was a little girl. And it turns out that by the miracle of the will of God, we have come to love one another, Kiki and I,
Mm-hmm.
and respect one another. And we, at some point, recognized that there was a kinship. And when that happens with human beings, a special kind of bonding can happen, a special kind of connection. We recognized and felt this kinship with one another, which goes beyond blood and family, because we're adopted into this family, both of us.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful family, by the way. We got lucky to have the Irwin family.
Mm-hmm.
I did, because Mary Louise Irwin, my aunt, my mother's sister, was a lifesaver for me, and took me in every summer for 1 month. I got to spend at Whitefish Lake in that beautiful cottage and with that beautiful family. And my cousin, John Irwin, is the oldest friend I have on earth, and we still are. We call each other identical twins with different mothers.
Yes.
I'm going to read from the Book of Lamentations, which is published, which won a national competition, and was published by Bitter Oleander Press last year.
Mm-hmm.
And is available. The Book of Lamentations is available from Bitter Oleander Press or from Amazon. I'm reading Lamentation, Breaking the Heart of the Land. And this comes from the second section. The book is in 4 sections. This is the section called Lamentations of the Animals, whose cross is to bear our pain. This is called Lamentation, Breaking the Heart of the Land.
Mm-hmm.
For the Lakota Sioux, the slaughter of the buffalo was catastrophic. It is not written in the histories, but the distant echo, the fading drumming of 6 million hoofbeats carried away on the prairie wind was a lamentation, a dirge, a devastating loneliness which haunted the land when the ghosts of the buffalo passed that way and then vanished, exposing a darkness in the heart of mankind. The Lakota were destroyed. Some truths take a long time to manifest, but the loss of the buffalo broke the hearts of the Lakota all at once and forever, and it broke the heart of the land. But the land endured the violation of its heart. The seed-bearing trees brought forth their succulent fruits. The creeping plants gave up their tender shoots, and the tubers and dirt-swelled edibles offered their roots. Each soil-worshipping species clothed in dirt offered up its prayers to heal the hurt. And then I will read from the Lamentations of conscience, the Holy Ghost in our brains. And I think I will read two poems from that section. The first is called The Manifesto of Conscience. This stands for, this is my manifesto, and this is the manifesto that has arisen in me as a result of the spiritual path that I have engaged in for most of my adult life, from 1974, when I was 31, until the present moment, so for 50 years or more. Mm-hmm. I've engaged in the work brought by Mr. George Gurdjieff to the West, and then by my own spiritual master, Mr. Lee Lozowick, and his spiritual master, Yogi Ram Sarat Kumar. I am from that school and of that school of Yogi Ram Sarat Kumar's, the godchild of Tiruvannamalai, India. This is the Manifesto of Conscience. Curse the history, curse the times, damn this fate, that we are brought to such a lowly, shameful state, that everywhere our name is mentioned brings forth hate. We have squandered all the treasures of this land, flaunted freedom so it seems a curse, treated friend and foe in ways impossible to understand, and bowed down only to the fist and purse. We have taken paradise by force of arms and brutalized it, shown how unchecked greed harms all living things and makes everything a factory. Farms and babies' birth, dying and marriage. The human heart, our only hope for survival, is silenced by the roar from the machine of progress as it levels mountains without art or soul, turning the soft flesh of the soil into its horror. Damn our politics and the men that made them. Damn our unbridled wars, our lust for power, the awful bedlam of our cities. However, within us dwells a lamb and a lion who refuses to lie down beside it, who uses force to gain what it wants, while the lamb uses tender mercy. The lion feels only hunger, but the lamb knows remorse, which changes the hearts of men. To speak of it is heresy. It gains no currency in the world of commerce or of power. Its interest is the lifetime, not the minute or the hour. Only conscience feels remorse, and before it, heroes cower. It is a force which breaks the heart and brings us to our knees. Nothing can withstand its might, and yet a mustard seed compares to it in size. It has a single eye, and yet it sees all sides at once. Draws no sword, but makes the heart bleed. Nations don't feel remorse, even in terrible strife. It is one man alone trying to change his life. I think those two will suffice, Kiki.
I feel like I need one of those celebratory horns.
Because that poem I just read, it was written several years ago. It speaks directly to what we're experiencing now in this world.
Yeah. Wild.
Yeah. I love you, and I'm so grateful, Kiki, for your taking time to speak with me.
Thank you so much.
I love relating with you, and I hope that we may continue all our lives, because it's a wonderful connection.
Same. I hope there will be more. I think so. Thank you so much. I will be sharing links to Red Hawk. And which name do you prefer? All of them? Red Hawk, Bob Moore?
I use the name Red Hawk when I write and when I do my spiritual work, and I am AKA Robert Moore, or Bob Moore as well.
Robert Moore.
So I think in order so people don't confuse me with an Indian, it's good to say Red Hawk has a what do you call white people?
Caucasian? Whitey?
He has a birth name, an adopted name as well. And
yes.
So he has an Earth name, EARTH, Earth name, which is Red Hawk, and I got it from the Earth. Mm-hmm. And he also has a birth name, which is Robert Moore. Mm-hmm. But when you put this up and it's ready to listen to, if you'll send me an email to link to it, I can send it out to people and they can listen.
Of course. And
it's been a productive talk, and I'm very grateful for it, Kiki. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a blessed day, a lovely weekend, and we'll be in touch soon again. Thanks for all your insight and wisdom. Love you too.
Bye now.
Bye.